I'm sorry. Good afternoon. I'm going to try to start this meeting, the second meeting of the budget review on economic development, public protection, and tourism and energy. Chair Fugit had a death in the family and he wasn't able to be here today, so let's keep him and his family in their prayers, and we'll go forward. At this time, Madam Chair, will you call the roll?
Representative Gooch, Representative King, Representative
Present.
Lehman, Representative Wesley, Representative Witten,
Here.
Representative Bowling, Representative Bray, Representative Petrie, Co-Chair McPherson. Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we have our first presenter of Melissa Brewer. If you'll bring your group up and introduce them. At this time, while you're doing that, we do have a quorum at this time. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All right. Anybody have any questions? All approve, say aye. Aye. All oppose? We have approval of the minutes. All right. If you introduce yourself for the record, and cheers. If you go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Melissa Brewer, the Executive Director of Finance for the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet. And this is Olivia Atkins, the Marketing Director for Kentucky State Parks. And
Hi, I'm Mike Manget. I'm Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Tourism.
Okay. If y'all would raise your right hand, I'm going to swear you in. Do y'all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
I do.
Thank you.
You ready? So I'll let you know I've been a little under the weather. So I am cough drops and water, but just to let you know. You ready? Okay. The Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet serves as a top tourism agency and collaborates with local tourism partners to coordinate tourism, arts, and heritage efforts through legislation, tourism development, and marketing outreach. Our mission is to support the promotion and development of Kentucky tourism, arts, and heritage as a mechanism to foster economic growth, education, and employment for communities throughout the Commonwealth. Next slide. Kentucky tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry that brings millions of visitors to the Commonwealth each year. And as one of the state's largest economic impactors, Kentucky tourism serves as a mechanism for driving economic growth in communities within all 120 counties. The Tourism Meeting and Convention Marketing Fund, the 1% funds, administered by the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet, is crucial in building Kentucky's tourism industry. All tax receipts from the tax imposed under KRS 142-400 are deposited into the Tourism Meeting and Convention Marketing Fund and used for the sole purpose of marketing and promoting tourism in the Commonwealth, including expenditures to market and promote events and venues related to meetings, conventions, trade shows, cultural activities, historical sites, recreation, entertainment, natural phenomena, areas of scenic beauty, craft marketing, and any other economic activity that brings tourists and visitors to Kentucky. It's important to note that the funds cannot be used for capital and construction projects. Each year, by September 1, our cabinet submits a report to the governor and LRC detailing the fund's earnings and spendings for the preceding fiscal year. We are grateful for the bipartisan support from the Governor and General Assembly during the 2024 legislative session. Last year, in recognition of the growing amount of the statewide transit room tax receipts, the Governor's budget recommended an increased appropriation amount, and the enacted budget agreed. This provided an additional $3 million in fiscal year 25 and $7 million for fiscal year 26. Additionally, the General Assembly set aside amounts from the fund to support the following: the Kentucky Mountain Regional Recreation Authority, the National Quilt Museum, and the Southern Kentucky Tourism Initiative. So far this year, we have spent about $7 million, and we will describe today how we plan to spend the remaining $15 million from the current appropriation of over $22 million. As you can see from the transient room graph, the transient tax growth over the last 5 years outside of the pandemic has been on the rise. This is a direct indicator that our tourism industry is strong and thriving. I'll now turn over the rest of the presentation to Commissioner Manjett.
Thank you, and like Ms. Brewer, you'll hear my voice crack a little bit, so it's that time of year in Kentucky. Thank you. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak with the committee and really explain the importance and impact that the 1% Tourism Meeting and Marketing Fund has on our industry here in the Commonwealth. As Ms. Brewer has outlined and you saw on the slide, the fund continues to grow. If you're familiar with the movie The Lion King, you know the song Circle of Life, and you're welcome for having that stuck in your head the rest of the day. The 1% funds truly represent our circle of life. The more funding we have to promote the state as a tourism destination and drive overnight visitation, the more visitors stay in our accommodations, generating more revenue for the 1% funds, and the circle repeats itself. To put it another way, this drives more visitors who spend money in your communities, your shops, your restaurants, and your local attractions, creating jobs and driving economic development. Next slide, please. This funding is crucial for us as it helps us stay competitive in the market. The 1% funds are our funding source, our department's funding source for everything we do, and just a sample of which you see on the slide in front of you. All of our marketing and advertising, all of our website development, public relations, and earned media. And when I talk about that, what I'm really talking about are when you see articles in a magazine like Southern Living or Condé Nast Traveler or Travel and Leisure that names Visit Lexington one of the top 25 cities for 2025. Those don't just happen. Those are concentrated efforts that we work with our partners. It's an always-on 365-day-a-year program, recruiting journalists, talking to journalists, pitching story ideas. To me, it is one of the most important things that we do. The 1% funds also pay for our international and group sales, trade shows, product development, asset and content creation, research, and fulfillment. It also funds our regional marketing and matching funds program. Last year, the Matching Funds Program distributed $2 million from the 1% funds to 87 local tourism commissions to assist in marketing your communities. These partners were located in every part of Kentucky. Next slide, please. This slide provides an example of the type of marketing campaigns and materials that we put out. And all of these campaigns, all of these creatives assets were developed from marketing with the 1% funds, All costs associated with photography, videography, ad creation, ad placement, etc., were paid for from the 1%. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the 25 geographic domestic markets where we will place media this spring. And to put that into context, about 10 years ago, it was about half of this. This growth and availability of the 1% funding has allowed us to increase the number of markets where we advertise, thereby increasing Kentucky's awareness as a travel destination. And really, that's our job at the Department of Tourism, to be the bullhorn for our communities, to introduce our new Kentucky home to the world by generating widespread awareness and exposure for the state, ultimately helping to convince travelers to visit. And let me tell you, it's working. Next slide, please. In 2023, the last year we have our economic impact numbers, the tourism industry's economic impact set an all-time record at $13.8 billion, breaking the previous record set in 2022. In 23, we had 79.3 million visitors, $9.7 billion in direct spending, which supported more than 95,000 jobs here in Kentucky, and just as importantly, generating nearly $1 billion in much-needed state and local taxes. And we fully expect 2024 will be a record too. And as you can see in this next slide, tourism impacts every area of the Commonwealth. And I really want you to kind of take that in. We make an emphasis to try and support all areas of the Commonwealth with these 1% funds. The growing funding has allowed us to increase our presence in multiple new markets, both domestically and internationally. On average, a domestic visitor spends $126 per day while in Kentucky, while an international visitor spends more than 5 times that amount at $632 a day. Each year, we conduct an ROI study on our advertising campaigns. According to Longwoods International, a leading third-party research company that focuses on the tourism industry, In 2023, for every $1 we invested in the advertising campaign, it generated $49 in direct visitor spending and $4 in tax revenues. It's a pretty good ROI. While today's testimony is focusing on the 1% funds, I would be remiss if I didn't mention and thank the legislature and the administration for providing ARPA funding for tourism industry recovery. As an example of its impact, the Department of Tourism was able to use ARPA funding for our recent fall brand campaign, saving approximately $5 million in 1% funds that will be utilized in the coming months. Why is that important? Even with the success we've had these past few years, our job is not complete as the tourism industry grows more competitive every day. As we sit here in mid-February, the early stages of the travel season, I can tell you that you will begin to see, if you haven't already, ads for numerous destinations that compete directly with Kentucky for the travel dollar. For me, I live here in Frankfort in central Kentucky. I get both Louisville and Lexington TV stations on our cable. And I have already seen ads for California, Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee, West Virginia, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, Myrtle Beach, the Bahamas, French Lick, and multiple Florida beach locations. When you add in attractions like Dollywood, Universal Studios, Disney Vacations, Kings Island, the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, and on, you begin to have a better understanding of the competition we face on a regular basis. Next slide, please. In closing, I'd like to again thank you for the invitation to be here today. Kentucky is seeing continued growth and incredible success in our new Kentucky home, and the tourism industry is helping lead the way. The 1% funds are mission critical to us, and we need every dollar to continue our circle of life and help build a thriving economy in each of our 120 counties. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, if you all have any questions, we again appreciate you having us here today to talk about the 1% funds.
Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all so much for being here today. May we go back to the map that had the push pins on it, please? My question, I was intrigued about that one. Thank you, ma'am. Are those places we already have visitors and we want to encourage them to come back? Is it a regional approach? And the reason I ask is I didn't know if we were trying to entice people in the Dallas and Orlando area to come to us, or they already are and we're trying to develop that?
That's a great question. It's a little bit of both. In some of those markets like Orlando and Dallas specifically, we're really entering the first phases of awareness, okay? So we get visitation from all over the world. Primarily our visitation comes from the upper Midwest. We are primarily a drive market. And what's that mean? Most people get here by automobile. And one way, thank you I-75 and I-65 going north and south. So you see we concentrate in the upper Midwest. Those are also very large drive markets, high population. But yes, Orlando's a good example. Our research shows that it's working out. And one thing I want to say, in every one of these markets and every bit of advertising that we do, we research it. We research before we go into a market. We research the demographics of the market. We look at, when the campaigns are running, the engagement levels, especially on digital. If it's not working or not reaching the levels we want, we switch messaging, we change tactic, whatever it may be. Traditionally, we're a drive market from the upper Midwest. Which has been great for us. So as our awareness and our budget has grown, we've been able to expand that. And usually when you go in a market, you think it's called a full funnel approach. Top of the funnel is awareness. We're the bullhorn yelling, take a look at us. As it narrows down, that's when you start getting into more specifics, into engagement, and then hopefully it leads them to a visit, and we track all of that. But that's where that is. And what the 1% funds have allowed us to do is go into some of those more expensive markets we weren't able to go into: Chicago, Dallas, Orlando. Toronto is another good example. Toronto, Canada. Canada is our number one international market to Kentucky. 2/3 of our international visitation comes from Canada. So we actually, since it's primarily a drive market still, we consider that a domestic market and included in this media campaign.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
So based on your research, do we know what those far-reaching, using your example of Toronto, Dallas, Orlando area, even Washington, D.C., it looks like, what are they interested in about Kentucky? What
Sure.
makes us think they're interested in Kentucky? And that'll be my final question, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
But they're good questions, so keep asking. No, thank you. I can't narrow it down to one thing. I can't say that Washington comes for bourbon, say, or horses. It really is varied, and that's one of the things that is great about Kentucky. We have such varied offerings in what we have. What we do is every year, research we do with Longwoods International, again, along with the ROI that you saw in our economic impact study, we do a visitor profile. And we go in and look, and we find out, what are you doing? Not necessarily from an individual market, it's spread across the markets, but when you're in market, what are you doing? Where are you going? What's your reason for being here? The biggest reason people come to Kentucky, and this is no different than most tourism destinations, is what we call VFR, visiting family and relatives. So if you've hosted relatives anytime recently, they come in, they stay, you want to especially if they're from out of state or out of town, you want to entertain them, you're taking them to local attractions, to local restaurants, they may even be staying if they're my family, they're staying in local hotels. We'll talk about that later. But we provide that research, and it really does inform where we go in the messaging that we send out. We want to find out what is interesting people. And again, you're looking at many different demographics here: the family traveler, the high-end individual traveler, the various niche markets out there that we want to market to and get that message out that Kentucky has something for them. Within that report, it's broken down by day visitors, those folks who are just coming down for a day and leaving. Of course, with bordering 7 states, we get a lot of that, where folks are coming over the border and doing some stuff and going back, and overnight visitation. Plus, we break that down as a visitor profile for each of those 9 regions you saw on the slide earlier with economic impact. So all of them receive a report similarly, because if you're in Western Kentucky, your drive markets are going to be a lot different than maybe Southeast Kentucky. So we try to give that. We show origin market, where they're coming from, the seasonality of when they're coming. And again, all of that's paid for with the 1% funds. If you're interested, I'm happy to share that information. We also post that on our website that's available for folks to look at.
I think I get that report. The one common denominator, and it may not be a data point you can actually track, but just what I see at looking at those pinpoints is those are high population areas. Mm-hmm. And it makes me wonder if just being able to get out and breathe and have some personal space and get out and enjoy the outdoors is something they may not be able to access in their daily lives. I don't even know if that's a data point you can track, though.
The interest in the outdoors absolutely is. And as part of that visitor profile and the research that we do, we always ask folks, one of the questions is, what do you remember most about your visit? Outdoors is very high. I remember one comment, this is a number of years ago, from a focus group in Chicago, and someone who came to Kentucky annually, and they said, when I cross the Ohio River, I relax and everything's green. So yes. So and I also say that following or during the pandemic and closely after the pandemic, Kentucky was discovered by a lot of these places. Lower population, we were safe. We had taken great care to be safe during the pandemic, and people came. And the one thing that our research also shows, and I can say this going back literally decades, is that our biggest challenge is getting people here the first time. Because once they come back time and time again, and the research bears that out. 81% of our overnight visitors last year, and I looked this up this morning just in case somebody asked, 81% of our overnight visitors last year were repeat visitors who had been here before.
Thank you for your indulgence. Yes, no problem. Great questions, great conversation. Representative Whitten?
Yes, thank you. This is really interesting. Your answers to Representative King answered a lot of mine, but I did want to clarify, when you look at advertising in these markets, is there how granular is the feedback on the back end? Like if you're marketing in these cities, how do you determine if that was money well spent?
Sure, that's a great question. Digital advertising has allowed us to really break down and see more immediate feedback through a lot of ways, primarily engagement. And what does that mean? Is somebody clicking on the ad and linking through to us? That's an engagement. That shows they have an interest. How long? And then we track how long did they stay on the website? What information did they gather? Did they link out of our website, because we don't sell anything on our website? Did they link out to, say, a Somerset Pulaski County or to a partner hotel or something like that, where and at that point we do kind of lose them. But those are the benchmarks, okay? For us, go back to what I said earlier, we're the bullhorn. We just want eyes on Kentucky. None of you will want to hear me say this, but in our office, we don't care where they go in Kentucky. All of my partners who are in the audience are saying, no, I want them in Somerset or I want them in Lexington. But you understand, we're the bullhorn just to get the message out there. More to your point, your question, traditional advertising, radio, TV, has always been difficult to track. Outdoor, I would put as well, and even print to some way. But now that print advertising is so tied in on the digital and the websites of the publications, I should say, it's rare when we buy just a print ad. There's usually a digital component where we get some retargeting, and that's the other thing. Once somebody clicks on an ad, we now know they have seen our ad. Through a number of research platforms that we use, we know they've seen our ad. We know through GPS tracking that if they've seen our ad and visited in the last year, now that doesn't mean we take full credit for that, but we know our ad had some impact there, or we assume our ad had some impact there. So we have gone from, I'd say in the last 20 years, because I was here 20 years ago doing some of this job, I remember when our primary medium that we used was newspaper inserts, which you think today is just like, oh my gosh, that's ancient. That was just 20 years ago. Now we are 62% of our overall media placements are digital, and it's primarily because if someone Representative King asked earlier, if something's not working or meeting the benchmarks, we can pull it, we can readjust the messaging, we can take it down if it's not working and reactivate it. So it's a much different environment now. We can geotarget. You see Chicago and all these others. When you see some of these markets, and I need to be clear, we don't just go in and blanket the market. We do not have the budget to do that. We're very, very targeted, and with digital advertising and some of the other mediums with what's called over-the-top television, which are your Hulus and your Netflix and things like that, you can actually focus by neighborhood or zip code. And so, again, back to your question, Representative King, when we're looking at all this and putting our media plans together, we're looking for where does that match come in? You know, they're the right demographic that we're looking for this message. We're going to feed that to them, and it may not be across. It may be, you know, there's a concentration of them in this specific number of zip codes, if that makes sense.
One more follow-up, if I may.
Yes.
Do you know the percentage of kind of out of Kentucky versus in Kentucky? Because what I care most about is if we can get tax dollars from people that don't live in Kentucky, that is a win. That is a win for the state in a big way.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I just want to make sure that we're maximizing the out of state.
80% of our budget goes out of state.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Lehman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for coming to present today. So obviously, two things you talked quite a bit about is bourbon being one of the pillars, and the importance of our international markets. And let's be clear, we're talking, there's the real threat of a 50% tariff on bourbon from the EU, which is our largest export market. Do you have any data from the last time we got, bourbon got caught up in a trade war? The impact from, obviously has a direct impact on distillers and sales. Does that affect tourism? And do we have a sense of that? And are there any, risk mitigation plans or discussions about what happens, to the 1% tax if, bourbon becomes really out of fashion with our international partners?
I don't have any specific data points on the last time it happened. I can't give you that. What I can tell you anecdotally is I was at a trade show last week in Philadelphia for motor coach operators, and there were some from Canada, or 2 weeks ago, whenever all of this was in the news. And we had motor coach operators on the floor of the trade show literally saying, I'm getting calls right and left of people canceling their visits to us. We have received in the office, not a lot, but we have received some emails, very polite emails, I will say. Canadians are very polite, if nothing else, but very polite emails saying, thank you, we just canceled a bucket list because of all this. It will have an impact. We had 320,000 international visitors in 2023. 2/3 of those came from Canada. They spent $200 million in Kentucky. Remember the $625 a day. So yes, we are concerned about it. One of the tactics that we use is social media advertising, which frankly is very effective when it comes to travel and tourism. We had a social media campaign that had just started in Canada that we stopped, and it goes back to our ability to turn things on and turn things off. We are not pulling out of the market. I don't want to overstate that, but we are, along with just about everybody in the United States, right now monitoring that. And it really, bourbon, as you mentioned, is probably the most high profile, obviously, for the product and where as an industry their growth is going. And in the international market, especially in the European market, we lead with bourbon because it truly sets us apart. When you can say you make 96% of an international product and 100% of all the good international product, that does set you apart. Representative King was talking about the outdoors. When we compete with our southern states and sell outdoors, it's not as effective because they have mountains and they have rivers and they have hiking and many of them have beaches that we don't have. So again, it's kind of marketing 101 at times. You go back to, what is your unique selling proposition? What truly sets you apart? And bourbon leads that way for us, and then we get to tell them about everything else. More specifically to your question, Representative, yes, we are absolutely monitoring it regularly. We're staying in touch with the U.S. Travel Association, with Brand USA, which is another federal organization that we partner with.
Thank you.
Does any other member have a question? If not, I just make final comment of, when you come into the state of Kentucky, District 22 starts at the state line up I-65, and my district goes all the way till you get off in Bowling Green, Kentucky on I-65. Then right above that is the Corvette plant, so we appreciate everything. I've got one question for you all. Do you all track anything that has to do with Airbnb stay in the state of Kentucky?
Yes, sir, we do. Yeah, we have separate reports that come in on hotel lodging and also one on short-term rentals. It's not, that one is probably not as comprehensive as the hotel lodging, but we do.
Which one is growing the most? Do we have any?
I'm sorry?
Which one is growing the most? Do we have any data on that?
I have not looked at that enough in the last month or two to give you a good answer, but I can find out and get back to you.
Well, I do appreciate it. About a year ago, I recognized and called and asked and saw where we went over $20 million on this fund, and 1%, you can do the math and see that back into the dollars that we're creating. So really appreciate your testimony today and the lively discussion, and thank you for coming before us. At this time, we would ask Commissioner Myers and his group to come before us. Introduce yourself and anybody you have with you for the record, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm Russ Meyer, Commissioner of Kentucky State Parks. Thank you for having us, Representative. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all today to give our report.
Okay. I'm going to reintroduce yourself.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Olivia Adkins, Director of Marketing for the Kentucky State Parks. Thank you.
And you can stay sworn. If you raise your head, if you don't mind, would you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Just you may proceed.
All righty. We've got a presentation for you, but I want to first thank obviously you all for having us and your support, but I want to thank our team with State Parks and Tourism Cabinet, also Finance Cabinet and DECA. We have representatives here from that cabinet too, but without these great folks, we don't move forward and have the success that we have and gonna have and continue. So thank you all.
Thanks, Tim.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to discuss the progress of our capital projects from funding you all appropriated to update and improve our Kentucky State Parks. As you will see in our slide presentation today, we have made great strides moving forward with those monies for the betterment of park operations. We've been working diligently with the Finance Cabinet's Department of Engineering and Contract Administration by meeting bi-weekly to facilitate these projects. Please see the breakdown of the projects from the release of the $150 million in 2022 through 2024 appropriations in HJR 76 from the 2023 session and HJR 56 from the 2024 session, and the line item capital projects from the 24-26 executive branch budget. House Bill 6. We'll go into these in more detail on the progress of these projects later in the presentation. You should be seeing information from us regularly. We submit a quarterly project report on HJR 56 to the Interim Joint Committee on Appropriations and Revenue. That report includes the status of each project. We also submit a quarterly project report to the Interim Joint Budget Review Subcommittee on Economic Development, Tourism, and Environmental Protection relating to House Bill 6. We appreciate that some of you have followed up with us on these detailed reports. Please look at our current completed projects. As we go through the presentation, we will go into more detail. As you can see here, we have already completed a number of projects, and we are working hard to complete the remaining projects as quickly as possible. This funding is providing significant, much-needed work to our state parks, and we can already see the improvements, which will benefit Kentuckians and our guests from across the country and around the world. The first half of the presentation will focus on HJR 76 funding, focused on campground, utilities, broadband, and structural updates and improvements. Many of the projects funded from the $66 million require an RFP for design and construction. Next slide. Campground upgrades total $40 million. Kentucky State Parks has 30 campgrounds. $2.1 million will be for bathhouse renovations and completed in-house by the parks construction team. Bathhouse renovation projects have been completed at Barren River, Nolan Lake State Parks. Many of the other park projects are under construction or in planning. For these campground renovations, upgrades, and expansions, we are basing the improvements on what campers are saying in surveys that they want. Better Wi-Fi, sewer drops, upgraded electric, sites with bigger living areas, frost-free spigots, and other top requests. These renovations are bringing our campgrounds into today and providing campers with what they are asking for. Campground projects in eastern Kentucky include installing new water and electric utility services and additional sewer services to campsites. Other improvements include campsite living spaces, paving of campground roads and site pads, and other ways to enhance guest experiences. Carter Cave's campground bathhouse and campground store will be replaced and is currently under construction. Major renovation to campsite utilities is also a part of this project. Cumberland Falls Clifty Bathhouse will be renovated, including ADA improved restroom shower addition that will be built adjacent to the current bathhouse. Campground projects in western Kentucky include campground redesigns, premium Lakeview campsites, camper cabin additions, and campground store and bathhouse replacement. The Corps of Engineers campgrounds require federal approval as well. As you can see here, construction is currently underway at my Old Kentucky Home Campground. This is a rendering of the $4 million project to build a new campground at my Old Kentucky Home, which is under construction and will be completed by spring of 2026. The campground will include an expanded, fully renovated campground with 39 full-service campsites. These will include 8 pull-through sites. The campground will include a new, modern 1,600 square foot bathhouse, new utilities, and new asphalt driveways. You can also see here the rendering for the campground renovations at Ken Lake State Park. Significant campground projects will take place at Ken Lake State Resort Park that include major renovations to existing campground sites as well as new premium Lakeview sites with full service connections and a new bathhouse. New camper cabin units will also be included in the renovation. Our crew completed this renovation at Greenbow Lake State Resort Park. These renovated bathhouses at Greenbow and other parks will include new HVAC, new exteriors, new roofs, new flooring, new vanities and toilets, and other upgrades. Carter Cave State Resort Park Campground will undergo a $3.8 million renovation to enhance the visitor experience and attract new travelers. The renovation will include the construction of a new campground store and bathhouse, additional sewer sites, and upgraded electric and water lines throughout the campground. These improvements are designed to ensure that visitors have access to modern conveniences while enjoying the outdoors. The project is expected to be completed by late 2025. Our utility improvements total $20 million. Kentucky State Parks is currently partnering with the Energy and Environmental Cabinet on a federal matching grant project that totals almost $17 million. $13.5 million in federal funds and $3.5 million from our funds. The grant supports the replacement of primary electrical infrastructure at Ken Lake and Kentucky Dam Village State Resort Parks. This grid resilience project includes right-of-way clearing, pole and line replacement, and replacement of primary equipment and transformers. Kentucky State Parks owns the primary electrical infrastructure of 14 parks. The age and condition of these systems are no longer able to safely and reliably support the electrical systems for park operations. The parks have become important sheltering locations for many of Kentucky's citizens affected by natural disasters. This adds to the priority of upgrading our electrical infrastructure. Please see the details on the collection system, piping, and sewer lift station repairs and upgrades to various state parks. E.P. Tom Sawyer and Barren River Lake State Parks are priorities in the West region. Natural Bridge and Cumberland Falls State Resort Park are priorities in the East region. Natural Bridge is under contract. The broadband upgrades total $6 million. The Department of Parks has 15 projects for Wi-Fi at the campgrounds. The Commonwealth Office of Technology is the lead on these projects. Guest Wi-Fi projects at Carter Caves, Paintsville Lake, and Dale Hollow campgrounds are completed. General Butler is under construction. We are working with COT to run conduit for my old Kentucky home, Ken Lake, and soon to be Bathhouse, Lake Malone Bathhouse. All campgrounds have high-speed internet or will receive upgraded internet as a part of these projects. Parks is working closely with the Commonwealth Office of Technology on every one of these projects. COT is working on the project schedule for the remaining campgrounds. COT is also working to accelerate the completion of the schedule by contracting the planning and design of each location to make them move faster. Now we will update you on the Department of Parks status of the $71 million released in the 2024 session for state park improvement, including building systems, accommodation, hospitality, and recreational amenities upgrades. Parks currently has an active project in process to replace failing heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems equipment in the lodge and other park facilities. This project includes a review of all major HVAC equipment and other critical climate control services. Other building systems improvements projects include the replacement of failing cooling towers, chillers, and other HVAC equipment, including a new chiller at Barron River and 2 new cooling towers at Jenny Wiley. These projects are already underway and targeted completion dates of April 30th, 2025. Parks is currently engaged in a life safety project centered around guest safety and security. This project includes replacing all guest rooms and primary lodge entrance access controls. New key cards and programming software will also be upgraded. The estimated completion target is fall 2025 for all resort parks. General Butler, Rough River, and Natural Bridge State Resort Parks lock system upgrades are complete. Park employees have commented positively about the improvements, which have eliminated visitor complaints about room keys not working. Other life safety projects include updates and repairs to fire sprinkler systems and major repairs to lodge elevators. The sprinkler system project at John James Audubon and the elevator upgrade project at Jenny Wiley have been completed. Dale Hollow elevator project is estimated to be complete in February of 2025. Cumberland Falls State Resort Park project is in design. Lake Cumberland State Park project is ready to advertise. Natural Bridge State Park project is under contract. The Pine Mountain and Dale Hollow projects are under construction. The Dale Hollow ADA accessible pedestrian bridge that leads to the lodge's upper rooms is currently under contract. The E.P. Tom Sawyer pool repairs are completed. The recreation building upgrades are pending due to weather. The interior upgrades at Lake Barkley will begin fall of 2025. This slide highlights furniture upgrades and mattress replacements at various state parks. $1 million is available to replace mattresses at 5 resort parks and to replace furniture at 4 parks. We have spent half of that. General Butler and Village Green at Kentucky Dam Village received all new mattresses and wood furniture. Kentucky Dam Village, Ken Lake, and Carter Caves received all new mattresses. Kingdom Come State Park received new mattresses and furniture for the newly renovated cottage recently completed by Cart Park's construction staff. The accommodations and hospitality project will provide interior renovations and new furniture at those resort parks prioritized by our team. This will include lodge rooms, cottages, and guest common areas. Design is currently underway and regularly scheduled project meetings are being held. $11.9 million is dedicated to upgrade Kentucky State Park pools. Several park lodges and community pools were constructed in the 60s and 70s. These structures need major improvement to offer our guests and local communities the expected guest experience. A consultant has been selected for pool projects and presented with prioritized list of park pools to review. $346,600 was dedicated to beach refurbishment to include sand replacement, beach amenities, and safety essentials. State park beaches are a major draw, allowing recreation and enjoyment for our guests. However, they have suffered from overuse and underinvestment. This project would restore them to a better, safer condition. This will enhance all current operational beaches within the system. Dam safety repairs. Pennyrile Forest State Park Dam is a priority for repair since it's failing. The design firm is selected and the project is currently in design phase. This project is pending review by Division of Water and the Corps of Engineers. The estimated construction start date is September of 2025. $1.2 million is dedicated to playground upgrades at 12 parks. Guests, especially children, are excited about the completed playgrounds. Many employees have relayed positive guest feedback about the new playgrounds added thus far at some of the state parks. Carter Caves, E.P. Tom Sawyer, Jefferson Davis, Pine Mountain, Jenny Wiley, Yatesville Lake, and Kentucky Dam Village have completed playground projects. Additional playgrounds quotes have been approved and equipment has been ordered. $8.5 million has been set aside to improve state park golf courses. $5.3 million will be devoted to golf course irrigation replacement. $575,000 will be used for Barron River and Kentucky Dam Village to convert the existing golf courses to Bermuda grass. Using Bermuda grass has a proven track record of reducing maintenance costs and improving playability. $2.6 million will be used to repair bunkers and mitigate many earthwork slides that have developed at different locations. The project is critical to protect the existing investment made in park golf courses. House Bill 6. The current budget bill has 15 projects totaling about $130 million. About $58 million is budgeted in this year, and $72 million in next year. We currently have 9 projects in design, 3 projects out for bid, and 1 project under construction. Some of the projects include the following. Yatesville Lake State Park Marina replacement is currently in preliminary design. Assessments are being made on the current marina. Part of this assessment requires divers to perform underwater inspections of the marina structure. Cumberland Falls State Resort Park will be evaluated by consultants for guest room renovations. Upgrades to the lodge common areas will be reviewed. The reconfiguration of the guest rooms is in design, with construction scheduled to start in 2026. John James Audubon Conference Center project is a partnership between Kentucky Department of Parks, Henderson County, and the City of Henderson. The construction of the facility has a shared cost of $7.5 million from the Commonwealth and $5.2 million from Henderson County and the City of Henderson. All parties are currently working on an MOU. An additional just over $1 million was allocated by the Commonwealth to remove a dilapidated beach house on site and for site preparation. The demolition and site preparation project are currently out for bid and will be awarded soon. Wastewater treatment plant upgrades will continue with the wastewater plants that needed them but were not included in previous rounds of funding. The plants at Dale Hollow and Blue Lick State Resort Parks will be updated, renovated, or replaced. The utility infrastructure replacement Phase 2 will include electrical projects that coincide with the Grid Resiliency Grant at Kentucky Dam Village and Ken Lake State Resort Parks. Additional critical infrastructure projects are also being addressed. In closing, an additional thank you to all of our partners, especially the Energy and Environment Cabinet and West Kentucky Rural Electric Co-op, as well as local county and city governments. The Parks Facility Management Division is managing 284 more capital projects, totaling almost $70 million, in addition to the projects we discussed today. Many of these are internal parks facilities management projects, while others are being managed alongside the Finance Cabinet. Thank you very much for allowing us to have this presentation, and we'll open for questions.
Does any member have any questions? Okay. Go ahead, Representative Bray.
Thank you all for the presentation, very detailed. Out of either the first round of funding or the HJR funding from last year, but more specifically the first round, will any of those projects go past this biennial budget period, do you expect?
the beef of those projects is in our campgrounds, and as it relates to Lake Barkley and the renovations going down there. But those two campground projects are extensive major campground projects at Ken Lake and my old Kentucky home, and they will be into next year and in completion. So
Okay, so they should be finished by end of
Oh,
next. Okay. What about the HJR projects?
Which are
the
71
second the
million.
ones we authorized.
The second amount.
Right, HJR.
Well,
56.
we're well underway, and I can just tell you that Mike Swatzina has built a team in our facilities department in parks, and they are working closely with Scotty Baker and David Troutwine over here, the best dressed man in the Capitol today. And they're working very closely with them to complete these projects. And this is, and what I've heard and understand in my experience in state government, they are moving faster than they have ever moved. We're meeting every other week, twice a week on these projects to update and move them. So they're all, as we explained in here, moving as quickly as they've ever been moved and possibly can. And you all are getting reports on updates. These reports, and I ask you to look at them. And if you do have any questions, always call. Always call us, and we're happy to give you individual updates or meet with you as a group anytime. But no, we're excited about those opportunities and how they are moving. So
we had authorized, I think it was 4 additional positions with you all to help manage just the scope. Have those positions been filled, and how's that working?
they have, and that money was given to Finance and DECA and Scotty and David, and I believe they were just in a committee giving a report. So
Yeah, couldn't be in both
Yeah.
places at once.
we discussed that last week, as a matter of fact, and that's moving forward, and it's very helpful. Thank you so much. I believe it was $600,000 that you all appropriated for those positions to help us do that, and that's a big part of the reason why it is moving.
And then finally, is there any? Do you all have any feeling or need for carry forward from what's already been appropriated? Are there any projects you haven't gotten to yet, or that you feel like you won't be able to get to within this biennium?
There's a lot in parks. There's a lot out there, as we've discussed in previous meetings. So, that list can go on and on. But, we're diving into this. We're getting numbers back, up-to-date numbers on project costs, how long it's going to take to complete these projects. But, today's time, today's money is going to go as far as it goes. And we're getting educated on that every day. And, we'll be able to come back at not only today, but we can come back at later meetings and give you, progress reports and updates on what we think the projects are going to cost and what these projects, what the needs are in state parks at later dates based on our the education we're going through right now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? If not, I really appreciate your willingness to come back. I know this is about the third time in about the year, and we were very wanting to watch this money and get it out there as quick as possible. For a lot of the same reasons we just had the other presenters up in before us. They did say we didn't have any beaches. They've not been to Barren River and seen our beach down there.
It's a big one.
No,
and it's a nice one.
So I would say that we are very, very understanding of the opportunity that we've talked about through COVID. The whole country shut down and is redefining what normal is, and we've had the opportunity to shine bright. Anytime you have a situation, you always have an opportunity, and we've had an opportunity to become rebrand Kentucky somewhat, and to bring people to our fair state because we have space and we have good laws and we have all this natural beauty, and we have all these things, and we want to take so much advantage of it, and the state parks are such a big part of that because of all the beauty that we have here. I would just ask, some of the projects that we brought you for, and I know you came this summer and discussed in particular the Barren River State Park, and I'm going to just ask, I know you had on the list there the chiller getting finished, and we so appreciate that. The pool down there, do you know, when you have a project that was on the line item, and then you maybe get into it and see that there's more than met the eye, how do you all handle those, please?
You know, when you're dealing with infrastructure, I call parks as a whole, the buildings, it's all infrastructure. You don't know what you're going to get into till you jump in there and you start tearing apart, just like the Barren River pool, which will be open this year. And we're excited about that. I know you are, and you know, I want to say too, our parks are big impact, big time importance to the Commonwealth of Kentucky, but every bit of big impact to your local community there.
Sure.
So, and we realize that, and we, you know, stay in communication with your local officials on projects, and respond to their concerns, as you know. So, you know, this
so
is
in particular, like where you do have one that's going to run over budget, how do you handle going back and saying, okay, we've got a pool that you know, we thought it was going to cost X number of dollars, but now it's going to cost 40% more. How do you handle going back in and looking?
Well,
at
it just
projects?
depends on if it's a rebuild or a do or a repair.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes repairs you're gonna have that situation where you know, run into things that you don't know about, and you have to step back, adjust, and recommit yourself to a project and the expense of that project. So all of them are different.
They are. Yeah.
All of them are different. But you know, if it's a total rebuild, we're generally, to speak, we're inside that number a high percentage of the time.
Good deal. So I sure appreciate it. And again, I think it's just you know, we've got a good detailed report now. We're understanding where we're going, and you're giving us a report so we can watch the line items of that. And I think that's something that we're all trying to do a good job of working in partnership with. And I appreciate your willingness to come before us and to answer more detailed questions about it. And as we go through, like we say, we're as Representative Bray said there, we're trying to get the time frames down so we know, because our constituents stay in our ear quite often of when that's going to happen, because it is very important to each community. I'm speaking for my community, but everybody else could speak for their own. And so sure appreciate the job y'all do, and I understand it's a big job, and appreciate you and your team. So thank you all.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you all.
So at this time, I'll ask David Beck and his team if you want to come forward and give us a brief. We kind of had a mix-up on the agenda today and thought that you all were off the agenda, but you've shown up, and I saw you back here, and so we've been texting back and forth. And they said if y'all want to give us a very brief, but they do want you to come back before us and give them more detail. So if you're willing to do that, that's fine. If you don't, we can wait. Whatever will be at the pleasure of you all.
We will be respectful of your time too. So if you've got time, we'll give you a few remarks. Other than that,
So we have a caucus meeting here in about 2 or 3 minutes. So are y'all okay to?
let's do another time.
Okay. So Representative Bray just reminded me we have caucus. So we so apologize and thank you and appreciate. Hey, and a shout out again to the Farmer Shooter Show and all the goings on in Louisville this week, and all of your team, and what so much you all mean to the state of Kentucky for us. We appreciate it. Thank you. At this time, if we have nothing else before the committee, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made, second. We're standing adjourned. Thank you.